Hello and welcome everybody to the latest episode of N1 from the End Zone with your favorite host, King NPV. You know that's me, baby. And on today's episode, we're going to be discussing European football, the NFL, a little bit of the WNBA, the NBA Finals, and Gunther winning the World Heavyweight Championship off Jey Uso on Monday Night Raw. Now, before we get into this episode, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take a brief moment to thank all of you guys, my subscribers, for being a part of the channel and supporting us as we grow. As we continue to grow, we're almost at 11,000 subs, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. You're watching the latest episode of N1 from the End Zone. Please click on that subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops. Now, let's kick it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get into today's NFL topic. Aaron Rodgers signing a one-year, $12 million deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he will don the number 8 jersey, and I like to say number 8 ain't 12. If you know what I'm saying, because 12 is clearly when Aaron was in his prime, and 8 signifies that chapter after 12 where he is in the later stage of his life, if that makes sense. Aaron, in my personal opinion, signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers is a good move for both Aaron and the Steelers, because for Aaron, in his perspective, he has a head coach that has been solidified in the league, who is a defensive-minded head coach, who will have his back, who will be the face of the franchise, because he's been the face of the franchise for nearly almost 20 years, even though Big Ben obviously was the guy. After Big Ben left, it's always been Big Ben and Mike Tomlin has kept that franchise afloat. So he has a great head coach in Mike Tomlin, and then he has a bona fide offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith, who I think will be able to get the best out of Aaron Rodgers this upcoming season. He has weapons in Freiermuth and ZK Metcalf. I think they even drafted a running back. Oh, no, actually, no, they didn't draft a running back. They still got TJ Warren, Najee Harris left. I think they have the offensive components, and we know Cameron Hayward is the heartbeat, the leader of that franchise, and we know Mike Tomlin has that defensive set. They're trying to work out a new deal with TJ Watt, and I frankly, I assume that they're going to work out that new deal because TJ Watt is a defensive player, and we know Mike Tomlin loves himself some TJ Watt. So because of all these moves, personally, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to still have a 9-8 season. With the move to get Aaron Rodgers, maybe the ceiling is closer to 10, maybe 11 wins. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go 9-8. I don't think they're going to have a losing record. Even with Mason Rudolph at the helm for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I thought they were still going to go 9-8. So getting Aaron Rodgers to be their quarterback, I don't think it's a drastic difference. But I do think it is something that makes the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit more solid at that position, even though Aaron didn't have the best year last year with the New York Jets. I think having Aaron Rodgers in that quarterback room with Mason Rudolph, who I think is a decent backup, who I think when given the opportunity, he's proven, at least in Pittsburgh, to be able to guide them to some wins, is they're going to have a fine season this year. And I'm excited to see what 8 does. 8, get it? Because he's no longer 12. I'm excited to see what 8 does for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I said I thought he should retire, mainly because he's got his life that he's been prioritizing this offseason. But just like Favre, I think, did towards the end, and even Brady, that 1 year where he retired and then he came back. I just think they're already trending towards the next chapter of their life. Now, if this is the year where Mike Tomlin, so this is what they do have to lose, however. If this is the 1 year that they have Aaron Rodgers and they have a losing record at the end of the season, that will put in my personal opinion, a stank on the later half of Aaron Rodgers' legacy, even though he's a 4-time MVP, Super Bowl champion. He would be known as the guy that gave Mike Tomlin his first losing season, or the quarterback that gave him his first losing season. He didn't have it last year with Russell Wilson. There was years where Big Ben was injured and they had to go with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, and they still managed to win, I think, 11 games that year. So if the only thing that's really the only thing at risk for Aaron in this situation is being the quarterback that doesn't lead the Pittsburgh Steelers to a winning season under Mike Tomlin's reign, because it's either been 500 or above every year he's been a part of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he makes it anywhere in the playoffs, if they make the play, I wouldn't be surprised if they make the playoffs, but if they make any noise in the playoffs, I think that would help enhance his legacy, especially at this stage in his career. It wouldn't, like, he doesn't necessarily have to win a championship, but if he can get to the AFC championship game or AFC divisional round, just make it back to the playoffs. It would go a long way to solidify that, yes, he is still one of the top tier best quarterbacks in the league. But he, at this stage in the game, 9-8, just a 9-8, 10-7 season is what I expect from the Pittsburgh Steelers with Aaron Rodgers. I expected them to just have a 9-8 season with Mason Rudolph. I think Aaron is good for at least one win. And yeah, those are my thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers signing Aaron Rodgers. Now let's transition into the NBA Finals. So the NBA Finals is currently underway, and the series as of right now is currently tied 1-1 when this episode is being recorded. My heart is with the Pacers. My heart is beating my heart right now. Let's go Indy. That yellow that they wear is similar to my Golden State Warriors gold. You know what I'm saying? And Tyrese Halliburton, in my personal opinion, he is an unorthodox superstar. I said it in my last episode that I thought he was better than Jalen Brunson, and I thought Jalen Brunson was a bit overrated. But Tyrese Halliburton in game one, when they were able to pull off that upset against OKC in OKC, I thought solidified himself in my eyes as a superstar. Yes, in the second game, he didn't start off well at all. It wasn't until the fourth quarter where he actually started going off. But by that point, it was garbage time. Team basically gave up. I thought, in my personal opinion, if they kept that game within 10 points by the end of the third quarter, OKC should have been worried, but but the Pacers were just never able to get it within striking distance, and they retained the lead. They put their foot on the Pacers' throats, and they never let up. In the first game, I thought Mark Daigneault might have overthought the situation, especially because they were able to gentlemen sweep the Minnesota Timberwolves in about 5 games, if I'm not mistaken. And since they had a lot of time to really rest, recover, and get prepared for these finals, I thought he might have just overcoached, overanalyzed a few things, where he switched his starting lineup in game one, and that basically cost them the game. Even though they were up by 20 points, it just didn't seem fluid. And then in game two, he went back to the starting lineup that was bread and butter for him basically the entire playoffs, and they just put their foot on their throats and just choked them out. Now, Pacers have home court advantage because they did take game one on the road, and they are going to play back in Indianapolis. And I love Rick Carlisle. Rick, I believe, got the Detroit Pistons to an NBA Finals about 20-some years ago, and then he got the Dallas Mavericks a title when it was like at the heyday of Dirk's, like in the later year of Dirk Nowitzki's career, I think with Jason Kidd and Terry and all of them back in the day. So I think if there's a head coach that could really pull this off, it is Rick Carlisle. I'm excited to see what adjustments he makes in game two. In game three, after seeing the OKC Thunder's starting lineup, the way that they are operating. I'm excited to see how they adjust. I do think the Pacers have the depth. They have the defensive talent to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, do they have enough offensive firepower for it? Nembhard has been great. Pascal Siakam has been lights out. Tyrese is give and go at times, but can we expect more from others? Can Miles Turner get a little bit of the offensive going, or is he just going to be that key piece in that defensive part? And I haven't really seen Miles Turner be that piece that they need him to be. so far in the series. So I'm excited to see what adjustments Rick Carlisle makes. I hope Tyrese Halliburton in game 3 comes out blazing, ladies and gentlemen, because that's what they need right now. They need Tyrese to go off and be what the hell. And I honestly hope the Pacers win. But realistically, if we're going by paper, by who the best team is, by who the better team has been the entire season, who has the MVP, OKC should win this game. And I wouldn't be surprised if OKC wins it in 5 games. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacers win it in 7. If the games are close, in my opinion, if the Pacers can keep each game within 10 points heading into the fourth quarter or 5 points heading into the fourth quarter, I think they can win the series in each game. Or not even in each game, in the games where they need to win. But if the Thunder are going to continue to play the way that they played in game 2, then the Pacers just don't have a shot. I'm just calling it like I see it in my personal opinion. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these messages.
Guys, have you heard? Nelson, tell the people.
Shady Mob Productions is an official affiliate of HBO Max. Click on the link in the description and sign up so you can watch hit series like Hard Knocks, Game of Thrones, and House of Dragons.
Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area and want the best cut of your life, go check out Headspins Barbershop located in South San Francisco, the official barbershop of N1 from the End Zone. All right, guys, so let's talk about my WNBA topic, and that is essentially Angel Reese winning Sportswoman of the Year and the success the Chicago Sky have had this year, which has been literally only winning 2 games out of the 8 that they've played this year and basically being blown out consistently. My issues, or not necessarily my issues, because I don't have a problem with Angel Reese. She's a beautiful, beautiful, talented young lady who has a business mindset, because clearly her mind is not on the sport of basketball because she's not playing very well this year, but it is on building her empire, whatever, her business empire, whatever that may be, whether it be in entertainment, whether it be not on the court because she's not doing that well, but just being like, let's say, a fashion icon or doing stuff like that. She's clearly in the eyes of everybody, which is probably why she won Sportswoman's Athlete of the Year. But I thought accolades and what you get on the court should dictate that, right? Asia Wilson won the MVP for the WNBA, had a tremendous season last year, is in a lot of people's opinions, Asia Wilson is the GOAT of the WNBA, and Angel Reese, by all intents and purposes, her team has not performed up to standard. This year, where they've tried to make her the number 1 option, she hasn't lived up to it. Every game that they've played, or whenever she's taken more than 10 shots, and I think they talked to her about taking less shots, she has been atrocious, shooting barely over 30% this year. And there was points in this season where she was shooting the ball and getting blocked 4 or 5 times consecutively and just getting her rebound. The WNBA was celebrating her for being the first woman, or the fastest woman, to reach 30, I think it was 30 double-doubles in 42 games, if I'm not mistaken. But is it really an accomplishment when most of the double-doubles you've gotten, at least 10 to 11 of those rebounds that you're getting are your own personal rebounds because you're being blocked? And it's clear that this offseason she hasn't put in the work to develop her game and take it to the next level, because she's worse this year than she was last year coming right out of college. Clearly, having the layoff that she's had, she focused a lot more on her media empire, creating her podcast, creating her business, making sure she can generate and capitalize on the 15 minutes of fame that she currently has, than really developing and focusing on her game, where it could give her the opportunity to have a long and lengthy career. As it currently stands right now, I'd be surprised if she gets a second deal, or if she plays for a second deal and has a 10-year career. I see her finishing out a rookie deal, not getting paid what she wants, making some outrageous demands, maybe financially, but not realizing where the league or where she might be at that point, where yes, you are a face of the league, and maybe you feel like you deserve to be compensated because you're a face of the league, but you're not putting up superstar numbers. You're just a face of the league because of the actions that you take off the court. And if that is the case, then what is the point of all of this, right? I thought literally the rivalry between her and Caitlin Clark was going to be a rivalry that lasted a decade, similar to that of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Granted, I know Angel Reese is not nearly the shooter or the playmaker that Magic Johnson was or Larry Bird was, but Angel Reese is essentially like the rivalry came from college. The story arcs are similar, right? The rivalry started in the championship game in the NCAA tournament, and then it carried on to the following year, and then now it carried on into the WNBA last year, where it looked like Angel Reese got the better of Caitlin Clark in the first couple games, and then Caitlin Clark found her ground. But Caitlin Clark has always kept her composure. And Angel Reese this year, or this offseason, has clearly been more focused on developing her businesses than her game, because she wasn't in the lab, and maybe she's playing herself into shape. But when the WNBA season is so short, do you really think you can afford to play your way into shape? Granted, I know anything can happen, and the league is so small that, like, I think about 60% of the teams get into the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. So they might still make the playoffs, even though they've started atrociously. If they have they're only a couple games below 500. But is this really what the WNBA wants? That you want to capitalize on a player that's not necessarily good on the court, but better as a face, as a brand ambassador for the WNBA? And if that's the case, and if that's the way that you think it has to work for you guys to make the money, go for it. But Shaq said something very interesting on Angel Reese's podcast, where if they lowered the rim and we got to see more dunking, it might improve the game. It might bring more eyeballs to the game, and I don't think he's wrong. And for Angel Reese to win Sportswoman of the Year by in the BET Awards, my opinion is a very disrespectful shot to Dawn Staley, to Asia Wilson, and to Clarissa Shields, who has won about 4 or 5 champions alone this past year. Doesn't that account for anything? She's knocking motherfuckers out. I'm just saying. She's knocking bitches out. I'm just saying. Excuse my French. Parlez-vous, madame. But Angel Reese, from what I expected from her on the court, and this is why I'm a bit frustrated, because I feel like I went to bat for Angel Reese, that I thought, like, okay, Angel Reese, I think there's just a big misconception and it shouldn't necessarily be about race. But the actions that have been taken essentially this season with their comments post game, and then not really finding substantial evidence to back it up after the league did its investigation and things like that, have just left a bad taste in my mouth of Angel Reese, because I genuinely believe Angel Reese had the talent coming into the league last year, and because of all the exterior things going on outside of the world of basketball, like getting invited to the Met Gala, celebrities, people that you're meeting, the amount of money you're making, all those exterior factors have taken a toll on her game, where I don't think she will ever be able to develop into the person or the star that I thought she could be in the league. Maybe I'm wrong. This is year 2. They've only played 8 games. But from what I've seen so far, it just doesn't give me a lot of confidence that she'll be able to turn it around. And I think in 4 years, we're going to see Angel Reese on ESPN First Take with Stephen A. Smith and Molly Karam talking about sports and getting paid a very handsome salary to do so. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's transition to the world of soccer. We'll be right back.
Guys, you're watching a Shady Mob production. Make sure to follow the Shady Mob podcast, where we break down all the latest content and talk about life. Please make sure to share, like, comment, and subscribe so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
Now, let's start off with one of my favorite teams of all time, Barcelona, extending Lamine Yamal's contract till 2031. It is reported that he has signed a deal that pays him about over 320 euros a week, which probably puts him around 40 million euros a year, which would make him the highest paid Barcelona player currently on the team, more than Lewandowski, who was recorded to be the number one highest paid player on Barcelona last year. With that being said, it is honestly a great time to be a Barca fan. Lamine Yamal truly seems like he is the second coming of Lionel Messi, mixed with a little bit of Neymar. He's got the dribbling skill set plus the finishing touch that he needs, and the left foot like Messi. Oh my God. There's just so many comparisons, but he's doing it. He's doing it at a high level. He was number 19 for Barcelona, just like Messi was that 1 year before he took over the iconic number 10 jersey from Ronaldinho. And as soon as Ronaldinho left, which in this case, Ansu Fati, who is leaving to Monaco on a loan, I think with an option to buy. If not an option to buy, he's leaving on a loan and probably we've seen the last of Ansu Fati for Barcelona, unless he develops into a striker who can later replace Lewandowski at the striker position, because he's clearly not a winger and he's not the same player he was when he was thought to be the next second coming of Lionel Messi and he was handed the number 10 jersey. Injuries took a toll on him, and he just, aside from the injuries, the mental game, he got healthy, but he just didn't have the mental skill set to pursue what he once was when he first came out from La Masia. With that being said, Lamine Yamal is set to inherit the iconic number 10 jersey from Ansu Fati, who has left for Monaco on a loan. And next season, we're gonna see an 11-9-10 combo if Lewandowski still stays with Barcelona. And it's starting to feel just like the era of when we had Neymar, Suarez, and Messi, with the prime Iniesta, Xavi, Sergio Busquets, or with Iniesta, Rakitic, and Xavi. Was it Xavi? No, Iniesta, Rakitic, and Busquets, because Rakitic basically replaced Xavi. And I even think they played together that one season when he came. I forget if it was from Sevilla. I think it was Sevilla where Rakitic originally played. But yeah, it's a great time to be a Barca fan. I'm excited to see what happens this upcoming season. Hopefully, and I believe Lamine Yamal has that demeanor. He's been a Messiah product from the academy from day one. He's been touched by Messi basically, and I think he's got the right head on his shoulders, where the money, where the fame, where everything is not going to get to him. Clearly, the last couple of years, they've talked about him as being the second coming of Lionel Messi. And from what we've seen, even with all the hype, even after he became a regular first team player, he has not let it get to his head, and he's performed consistently. He's played over 100 games for Barcelona, and this past season, in 55 appearances, he had, I believe, 43 goal contributions, if I'm not mistaken, in all competitions. He's a Ballon d'Or candidate, and in my personal opinion, if it's not him, it's Rafinha, but one of these two stars, in my personal opinion, deserves to win it. My third option would obviously be Dembele, but Dembele didn't necessarily have a stellar season this year. He just basically came on the last 6 months, and last 5 to 6 months, where now PSG is in the final, but he's been playing lights out, with all due respect to Dembele. In my personal opinion, Lamine Yamal, the way he's carried the team, the way his presence on the field, the fact that he's just 19, no, not even 19, he's about to be 18 in July. I'm just a huge fan of the kid. And Rafinha, with all due respect to him, because he is a captain for Barcelona, the team goes with Rafinha, and this is by far his best season. I just think Lamine Yamal, with what we've seen and what we can see from him later on down the road, deserves this Ballon d'Oro, in my personal opinion. I'm excited to see what happens next year. Now, with that being said, let's transition into just Barcelona topics on what they should realistically go for in the transfer market and what it's reported that they are actually going for in the window. Now, since the La Liga season has come to an end and the window should be opening here on June 16th, it has been reported that Barcelona is linked with a few moves away from the club and to the club. We've already seen Ansu Fati agree to a loan move that takes him to Monaco, basically leaving the number 10 jersey for Lamine Yamal to inherit. There's also been reports that Ronald Araujo will be on his way out. Same thing with Mark ter Stegen, which would mark the end of an era for me as a Barca fan, because he was there with Lionel, with Suarez, with Neymar, with Rakitic, with Iniesta, with Xavi, with basically a lot of the greats that I watched growing up watching football. And once he leaves, that just closes that chapter and opens up a new chapter with basically the new wave with Lamine Yamal, Rafinha, Dani Olmo, Pedri, Gavi, who's still on the bench, who I hope gets more run next year, Frenkie de Jong, who's been phenomenal, Kubarsi, Balde, Conde. Like, they got a lot of young, talented guys on the roster that I think are is the next iteration, right? With that being said, it's been reported that Hansi Flick wants a winger to help relieve the pressure off Rafinha and Lamine Yamal for the upcoming season. And basically the player they've been linked with is Luis Diaz from Liverpool, who had a tremendous season for Liverpool after they won the Premier League and everything. But my issue with Luis Diaz is, doesn't Luis Diaz want to play? And realistically, are we going to do it at the expense of Rafinha and Lamine Yamal, who we just signed to a massive contract extension? Now, with that being said, Lamine Yamal with this new contract, it's not going to be at his expense. Is he going to be at the expense of Rafinha in the position that he plays, where we now move him in, or Lewandowski, who's 37 years old and has seen better days? Are we going to try to make Luis Diaz a striker, a false nine striker, which I don't think he necessarily fits in well at that position? It's just a lot of questions for me. If we move Rafinha, because I know they've discussed moving Rafinha from the left wing position to the 10 position as right behind Lewandowski, but that would mean it would be at the cost of who? Dani Olmo, Pedri, or Frenkie de Jong. Even though I thought Frenkie de Jong should have been sold a long time ago, Frenkie de Jong under Hansi Flick has revived his career, has looked phenomenal. And even though Gavi isn't getting a lot of first team runway, I think Gavi still has a lot of potential to grow and develop. With that being said, after Rafinha had the season of his life, the best season of his career to date, in my personal opinion, why would we move him from that left wing position where he has clearly excelled because he is a talented and skilled winger, to a position where I just don't think he would find nearly the same success, in my honest opinion. If there is a player from Liverpool we should be interested in, it is, in my personal opinion, Darwin Núñez, who, since he's joined Liverpool from Benfica, has struggled to maintain form, has not been the Darwin Núñez that was advertised. I think he had his best season of his career the last year he was at Benfica. Then his first year at Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp, he didn't have a bad season. He had a good season. By all intents and purposes, it wasn't the best, but with Jurgen Klopp, he gave him the opportunity to adjust, to learn the game, to develop. And in his first year, on 42 appearances, he scored 15 goals, had 4 assists. In 42 appearances as a striker, he contributed to 19 goals and assists. Not the best season for a striker, but also not the worst season. There's been others that have had much, much worse. His second year with Jurgen Klopp, he had a better second season, where he scored in 54 appearances, 18 goals, and assisted 15 times, which, again, for a striker, 33 goal contributions, whether it be goals or assists in 55 appearances or 54 appearances, he did a phenomenal job. Now, this year under Arne Slot, it is clear that he is not his number one striker of choice. And with the recent success, in my personal opinion, that Anthony has found at Real Betis, leaving Manchester United, not having that physical style of play that the Premier League necessarily has, Anthony has managed, in my personal opinion, to revive his career with Real Betis. Not saying that Barcelona should go after Anthony, but what I see there is Darwin Nunez, because of the level of physicality the Premier League has, even though his second season was better than his first, and this year he's clearly taken a step back because Arne Slot just doesn't have the confidence in him, I think would be a phenomenal replacement for Luis Suarez, who's going to be 37 next year, and could come in off the bench because he's also played the right and left wing positions as well as a center forward and striker. And in my personal opinion, the tiki-taka style where basically you have wingers that can actually support him. I know he has Mo Salah. He's had Sadio Mane in the past. I know Darwin Nunez has had every opportunity in the world to succeed with Liverpool, but I just think the physicality of the Premier League just doesn't suit his style of play, where if he were to join Barcelona rather than go to the Saudi Pro League, he's not as expensive as he once was when I think he joined Liverpool, and he can still has a shit ton of room to grow. We would have Ferran Torres, who is an excellent player when he's healthy, who has this year taken a step up in his game after leaving Man City, having a great career with Man City, but hasn't necessarily found the same success with Barcelona, where Lewandowski has been that guy consistently over years, even though Xavi didn't necessarily want him. Towards the end, Hansi Flick has gotten the most out of him. But next year, being 37 years old, if we have Lewandowski, or if we sell Lewandowski, we still have Ferran Torres. We would have a Darwin Nunez who could play the winger positions similar to Ferran Torres and still play that striker role because he's just accustomed to it. He's played basically his entire career as a striker. And then another player that I think they should also keep an eye on, in my personal opinion, is Atletico Madrid's Julian Alvarez, who this past year had a great season by all intents and purposes, and I think would fit in well on that Barcelona side as a replacement for Robert Lewandowski, who is getting older. But that's, in my personal opinion, the one area where we need to improve. Same with our center backs and our goalkeeper. It's also been linked that Emiliano Martinez might be searching for a new club. I know Unai Emery has said that Emiliano Martinez was not leaving the club, but from all intents and purposes, it looks like he's already said goodbye to everybody. He already did his goodbye at the Aston Villa Club Park, and he's looking for a new chapter where he can win titles. I know Emiliano Martinez is old, like I think he's 30, 31 years old, but Barcelona, we need a goalkeeper, and by all intents and purposes, Emiliano Martinez is a world-class goalkeeper, World Cup winner. He's called the Dibu because he knows how to get into players' head, and I think he would be a phenomenal improvement for Barcelona as a goalkeeper, especially if we're going to be playing that high back line. I think Emiliano Martinez could be a drastic improvement over Szczesny, who is, in my personal opinion, closer to being retired than he is in his prime, even though he did have stellar performances for Barcelona this past year. Inaki Peña, I don't know if he'll ever develop into being that number one goalkeeper for us, but I just think Emiliano Martinez would be the ideal fit. I think Julian Alvarez would be the ideal fit as a replacement striker, as a replacement number one option striker for Lewandowski. But if we're intending to keep Lewandowski, a player like Darwin Nunez, who I think we could bring off the bench, who can play the winger positions, who can also come straight down the middle as a striker, would be a great backup and replacement for Robert Lewandowski, and a great substitute for Lamine Yamal and Rafinha, more than Luis Diaz, who I think would want to start at this point. And Darwin Nunez, he could develop and earn that starting role with Barcelona. I think he's only 25 years old, so he's still got a little bit of time to develop. And I think Spanish football would benefit him drastically. With that being said, thank you, Ronald Araujo. Thank you, Mark Ter Stegen. I don't know if this is the end of you guys, but if it is, I appreciate your years of services to Barcelona, because you guys have been with us through the darkest of times, and now we are seeing the light of day. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. Also, let's not forget Marcus Rashford is linked with the move to Barcelona, who I also think for what Hansi Flick is looking for, Marcus Rashford would actually be a good fit. He can play as he can be a substitute for Lewandowski as a striker, that number 9 position, and then he can play in the wings for substituting in for Lamine Yamal and Rafinha. He's 27 years old. He has upside. He could start if Lewandowski's production takes a dip next year. However, in my personal opinion, if Barcelona can somehow be linked with the move for Darwin Nunez, I think Darwin has a much bigger upside than Marcus Rashford, who is 27 years old. There is a 2-year difference, but in the long run, I think Darwin has a much bigger upside than Marcus. But Marcus has proven to have had his seasons when he was 24, 25 years old for Manchester United. In the last couple of seasons, he's just taken a bit of a nosedive, but because of injuries. But I think Marcus Rashford or a Darwin Nunez would make much more sense than a Luis Diaz for Barcelona at this point. Now, with that being said, guys, we'll be right back after these messages.
Guys, join me, Alex the Man Angelov, and check out A&A Radio, where we're going to be talking about the latest and greatest financial news, investments, banking, and personal finance. Check out the channel, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
Guys, have you heard? Shady Mob Productions is an official affiliate of HBO Max. Click on the link in the description and sign up so you can watch hit series like Hard Knocks, Game of Thrones, and House of Dragons. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops. And we're back. Now let's talk about my other football love, Arsenal. This year, in all intents and purposes, has been a disappointment. Yes, we were hit with the injury plague. Yes, it was horrendous. Saka never got back into form after he came back from his injury. I felt like a lot of pressure was on Martinelli to generate. There were moments where we moved him in and out of the lineup, and I didn't like that because I felt like Martinelli was a player that was consistent for Arsenal alongside Odegaard and Declan Rice and Thomas Partey, who are key to Arsenal in the way that they play. And Martin Odegaard also went down with an injury. This year, we were just plagued with injuries. So that's the only reason why I guess Mikel Arteta gets a pass, because he does have Gabriel Jesus. He does have Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz can play a false 9 striker. Isn't necessarily ideal. I prefer Gabriel Jesus to be the striker for Arsenal, but neither one of them have been a world-class caliber striker that we need to change the team. We have, in my opinion, world-class wingers in Saka and Martinelli, because Martinelli is still developing. I think Martinelli is one of the best players in the world. Same with Rafinha. I think Rafinha is obviously better. I think Vinicius Jr. is... I don't know, man. Vinicius, I feel like, is closer to Martinelli than he is to Rafinha, in my personal opinion. Same with Rodrigo. Saka, he's on a class and a level of his own, but because of injury, he hasn't been able to find that form. Odegaard, same thing. Because of his injury, never was able to find form, and that cost us in the Premier League. At least we finished second again. Made you the Champions League. And we also made the semifinals, and that cost us in the semifinals because we couldn't score. Defense played all right, but we couldn't score a goal in the first game. In the second game, we went all out. I think we were able to manage to score 1, but we still conceded 2. And by that point, I felt like the guys were defeated. Yes, beating Real Madrid gave them confidence, but realistically, we were missing that striker, and I believe Mikel Arteta believed that he was going to get one of his top options back, but sadly that didn't happen. Personally, I thought Leonardo Trossard, I think he might have been injured. I'm not, if I'm not mistaken, but he might have been healthy. When he was healthy, he could have played as a striker, in my personal opinion, better than Mikel Merino. to be completely honest with you. So I guess Mikel Arteta gets a pass, but in my personal opinion, Mikel Arteta, even when he played for Arsenal as a player, never really experienced winning anything for the team. Maybe he won an FA Cup towards the end of his career, if I'm not mistaken, but for Arsenal, I don't think he ever won a trophy in his time with the team. Uh, it 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 it's been, in my opinion, about 15 years, 14 years since we've had a legitimate striker in Robin Van Persie after Thierry Henry left. Robin obviously went to Manchester United, but we've never, in my personal opinion, been able to fill that gap, replace those players, those world-class caliber elite strikers. We had Aubameyang, we had Lacazette. Lacazette, for all intents and purposes, was supposed to be that guy, but he never developed when he came from France, from Olympique Lyon, for Arsenal to be that number 9 that they were seeking, that they were desperately seeking. That's why they moved Aubameyang from the wing position to the central forward position. And even then, I didn't think Aubameyang was a good goal-getting striker. I think we've been lacking that for the past 15 years. And right now, the only piece that's missing is a world-class caliber striker, or like a finisher, like a Lewandowski type, like an Mbappe, who they should have gone after, given him the house, done whatever they could have done to steal him from Real Madrid, because I know how badly he wanted to go there. But like Mbappe, you got Haaland, you had players that were world-class that fit the category that Mikel Arteta is seeking, but they continue to spend on players for the midfield that they don't need anymore. We have in the midfield, we can play Kai Havertz, Declan Rice, Thomas Partey, Odegaard. Now we're probably bringing in Zubamendi. We have, if I'm not mistaken, Calafiori, Jorginho. Like, we have enough midfielders. We don't have strikers, finishers. And we're linked to a 22-year-old who played in the Bundesliga for RB Salzburg, Benjamin Sesko, who this past season in 45 games had 21 goals and 6 assists. He scored 4 goals in the Champions League for Red Bull Salzburg. Good player at 22 years old who can develop, but at this stage in the game, we don't need another developmental project. And with all due respect, in 45 games, if you're only contributing, I think 27 goals, I need somebody that's closer to a goal a game average. And a player that's been proven in the Premier League is Alexander Isak, who this past season for Newcastle, who now have made European football because they finished 5th in the Premier League, and in all likelihood now get to keep Alexander Isak because he gets to play this season in the UEFA Champions League. But if he is on his way out, this past season for Newcastle, in 42 games, he had 27 goals, 6 assists. He's a proven striker in the Premier League. A total of 33 goals contributed this past season in all competitions, mainly in the Premier League, some FA Cup, some Community Shield. But Newcastle is not known for playing in Europe, and if he had gotten an opportunity to play for Europe, I wonder how many more goals or how many more goal contributions he might have had. And I'm excited to see what he does next season. But the player, ladies and gentlemen, the player that I think that they should obviously sign, that they are currently linked to, is Gyökeres. The reason why Gyökeres is the person I think that they should go after is because he reminds me of Haaland. Haaland, when he was with Dortmund, averaged a goal or 2 a game. I remember when Haaland, before he came to Man City, and yes, this season hasn't been the best for Haaland, but when Haaland arrived in the Premier League, Haaland was scoring goals like a mother effer, and he is still a world-class elite talent, even though Man City this year struggled. They still made European football. Now, Gyökeres, in 52 games for Sporting CP, scored, I believe, 54 goals, 13 assists, and 6 UEFA Champions League goals. So he's proven it in Europe that he can score goals. And he is a consistent finisher, something that Arsenal desperately need. And if we don't pull this move for Gyökeres off, and if we fail to win the Premier League or win a trophy next year, because this is getting stressful in my opinion. Yes, we make European football every year again. We weren't able to do that after Arsenal left, but we've hit a plateau. We need a coach like Carlo Ancelotti, like Luis Enrique, like Pep Guardiola, who this past season for Manchester City didn't have the greatest of seasons, but if he does decide to leave Manchester City, go after him, offer him everything. But we need a coach like that. We don't need to bring in a rookie. Or yes, I appreciate Mikel Arteta's service. Yes, I understand he came from Pep Guardiola's coaching tree. Yes, I know he understands how to win. But he, as a player, never won anything for Arsenal. Maybe he won an FA Cup. I don't remember him being there when they won the FA Cup. I think, was he there when they won the FA Cup with Mesut Ozil? He might have been. But one trophy doesn't mean you know or you've experienced Arsenal in their glory days or in their winning ways. And with that being said, I think they should bring back Thierry Henry to be the head coach or the manager of Arsenal, because he knows he is a quality legend of Arsenal who has managerial experience, who demands a high level of performance and expectations, and who can identify, in my personal opinion, a lethal finisher, a striker. I think Thierry Henry deserves an opportunity to be the manager at Arsenal. It'd be a dream come true for me. El Titi, where he belongs, taking Arsenal back to the glory days when he took them to a UEFA Champions League final. Yes, they lost. I understand. It was a heartbreak, but he took him there, carried them there, and they scored. We had an opportunity, and then we collapsed. It's okay. And then he was a part of the Invincibles. That's the type of player that should be coaching Arsenal if we're gonna bring back former players. Not Mikel Arteta, who in his time at Arsenal did not win did not win or follow through when it mattered the most, because he always came up short. And it seems like he's coming up short in his managerial career for Arsenal as well. I'm just saying. Oh, my Lord. And we're wasting money on another midfielder. We have Jorginho. Oh, Lord. Why are we spending 60 million on Zubamendi? Why don't we use those 60 million to go after another, just a striker? Just use all the money and buy a world class striker. I'm coughing because this is so annoying. Oh, Lord. I swear, if we don't win anything next year or make it to a couple of finals, I'm going to be irritated, and it should be time for Mikel Arteta to leave. We've spent way too much money in the midfield and he was a holding midfielder, guys. So midfield is where he thinks is the core of the game, but that's not necessarily the case. You need a striker. Pep Guardiola, when he was with Barcelona, he had Samuel Eto'o, Thierry Henry, and Lionel Messi. At some point, I think he also had Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He had world-class strikers at his disposal in all categories. Then when he went to Bayern Munich, he had Frank Ribéry, he had Robben, he had Thomas Müller, he had Claudio Pizarro, the Peruvian great legend. You know what I'm saying? But he had lethal strikers. He had striking options. He had that's the thing. You can't do this without a world-class striker. I know Lewandowski's well past his prime at 37, but dude is still better than fucking, no offense, Gabriel Jesus, who I think is underrated, who is still not able to develop into what I've ultimately always thought he could be. which is a bit of a shame. I hope he comes back healthy this upcoming year. But with that being said, that wraps up my take on my beloved Arsenal, which I hope we just get better. I hope we can just get better because I really have very little faith in Mikel Arteta. I've had it for a long time. We'll be right back after these messages.
Guys, you're watching a Shady Mob production. Make sure to follow the Shady Mob podcast where we break down all the latest content and talk about life. Please make sure to share, like, comment, and subscribe so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
All right, guys, let's get into the last topic of the day, which is Jey Uso dropping the title back to the ring, General Gunther, on Monday Night Raw, and people actually being surprised that it happened. To be completely honest with you, I could have telegraphed that to you when Gunther won the number one contendership and came out, I think, the following Monday night on Raw, or the following Monday Night Raw, and told Jey, I'm facing the winner of Logan versus Jey, and whoever basically won that gets to face Gunther, when it should, in all honesty, have been the other way around because Gunther wasn't the world champion. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I think WWE made the right move. You can only live off a catchphrase for so fucking long, and 4 letters, 1 word, yeet, was running stale. The reason why I think Jey's main event or world championship run flopped, in my honest opinion, was mainly because he doesn't have the mic skills. Jey was a great performer on the mic when he had his brother Jimmy to feed off of him, and they fed off each other. That's why the Usos together were such an amazing and great tag team. But when you take away that cohesion, that special bond that those two twins have, and you try to make one of them a solo star, in my honest opinion, their skill set in the ring and the way that they perform in the ring, it's just too similar. And in all honesty, I feel like Jey's main event run came at the cost of Jimmy. Now, I don't know what Jimmy was doing in his own personal life that they kept him away, but I think the reason why they've kept Jimmy away from television for a while was because they were really trying to push Jey. And if you have Jimmy on TV with Jey, Jimmy has the same skill set as Jey. What is the difference between Jimmy and Jey Uso? Not much, other than one of them has been given the acronym main event Jey Uso. I honestly think Gunther being the world heavyweight champion again was a very telegraphed move by Triple H, because even I think they postponed, they were supposed to face each other off at Money in the Bank, and then they moved it to Monday Night Raw. Honestly, I'm excited to see what Gunther does with the title, and I'm more excited to see Sammy finally get an opportunity to be the world heavyweight champion. In my honest opinion, if Jey had been given let's say a manager like Paul Heyman, who could have managed the mic similar to how he managed the mic for Roman Reigns, and until Roman was able to build up his character and develop those mic skills, learn, Jey probably would have been better. But Jey literally had been reverted to just literally saying his catchphrase, 4 letters, 1 word, yeet. That was literally it. The match after the main event at Money in the Bank, after they won, Cody said his piece. Cody is obviously the face of the franchise at this point. He is the face of WWE. I think at times it's corny, but he lives his character. He is his character, and that's why it works for him. Same with Jey, and that's why he's over. But at the end of the show, it should say a lot when Cody hands you the mic, and all you do is your catchphrase, and that's it. And that's it. And every time he was given the mic to cut a promo or something in the ring, it just never hit. It never stuck. It never stuck with me, because it literally, he just yells into the microphone and then says his catchphrase and then he pieces out. So I'm sorry. I feel like they mismanaged Jay's main event run at this point. But in all honesty, let's be honest. LA Knight deserves a run if Jay got a run. I know Jay's been in part of the WWE for over 15 years. Kudos to him. He got his push. But LA Knight, Sami Zayn, and countless others that I'm kind of Solo, even his younger brother Solo, who they built who they built, let's be honest, when he was a part of the enforcer for the bloodline, they built him up like a beast. And they've done a disservice to him by reverting him into the role that they've given him now. But I still see Solo having a bright future and potentially being a world champion and having a much better, much more successful run than Jay did with the title, because he's got the mic skills, he's got the charisma, and he's got the attitude that they need in a world champion in Solo Sikoa. I still think there's enough time to save him and make him into the true beast that he once was. I know he's right now trying to be the head of the table or whatever, but it's not working. Just make him that beast again and let him tear up. Let him and Jacob go head to head with each other. And they're probably going to do it at SummerSlam for the U.S. title. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tonga Loau, and JC Mateo, also known as Jeff Cobb, come in and disrupt that match and give Solo basically the win over Jacob, which in all honesty, Jacob has been a phenomenal addition. It's just a damn shame that Jay's world title run didn't stick, but I think it was the right move by WWE and Triple H to put the title back on Gunther, because Gunther is a world heavy is, in my honest opinion, the world heavyweight champion, and he never stopped being the champion. The way he carried himself in all aspects, it's similar to how Cody Rhodes carries himself. The only difference is Cody is a babyface, Gunther is a heel, but both of them do it in such a way where Gunther, his persona is a heel, but he does it he beats people in a clean way, and it works for him. My prediction, now that Seth Rollins is the Money in the Bank champion, is that when Cena drops the title back to Cody, Seth comes and cashes in, and he will be the WWE champion, the WWE Undisputed champion, and he will be the one to be the face of the company, like he, in my honest opinion, rightly deserves. I don't think Seth should go after the World Heavyweight title. I think it would be, so basically, if they do the Gunther versus Sammy storyline, and then they have Sammy finally beat Gunther, and then you get Seth coming in to cash in on Sammy and having that feud, I think that would be a much bigger detriment, in my personal opinion, if to Sammy than it would be to Cody, if he were to literally win the championship and then get cashed in by Seth Rollins and then having that feud, because there is a storyline there, and that is my honest prediction. Now, we have come to the end of the episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching the latest episode of N1 from the End Zone with your host, King NPB, which is this guy right here. I appreciate all the love, the support. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops. Always remember, desire is power. If you desire to be great, you have the power to be great. I'll catch you guys on the next episode, so I'll see you next time.